Today I'm starting my review and reading of my topics article from 2019. It's the second issue of that journal that year. Waste in Popular Music Education, Rock's Problematic Metaphor and Instrument Making for Ecoliteracy. Popular music education can ease or worsen the waste problem. Waste refers to things with no value, and the global north produces a lot of waste. Not limited to material, waste can be seen as a dominant metaphor in rock music. The guiding question for this essay is, what opportunity does rock music prevent for cultivating ecoliteracy through music? Before we can find solutions, though, we need to recognize rock's distinctive ecological challenges. Popular music is both implicated in the challenge of waste and can help music educators explore opportunities for resistance. In music education, qualitative research suggests instrument making increases knowledge, interest, creativity, and builds attachment to an instrument. In addition to reducing material waste, in our field's move to incorporate popular music, instrument making can be a part of ecoliterate music pedagogy. So that's the end of the abstract. So that just brings together what I hope to do with this, right? I don't know, is this the first article on ecoliteracy and popular music? Perhaps. I know Linus Shevock has done some since. But I don't know if he wrote any before this as well. Mainly because he's in Europe, right? So he could have published something over there, right? In a language I don't read, right? Maybe German or something, or Norwegian or Finnish, right? There's lots of Swedish. There are lots of journals in their national languages that I just can't read them all, right? I remember I translated one from Greek, and it was pretty tough because they only have the same letters as us, line by line, and copy and paste it into Google Translate, right? And even so, it's hard to make sense of it, right? Because other languages have their own metaphors. I definitely do better with Spanish, so I know there are some people that writing in Spanish about ecological literacy, and I've used Google Translate, but also just reading, I can pick up a little bit from my 2 years of high school Spanish. A little bit, very little. Okay, let's start the article. So I'm starting with a reflection, right? I just added a new pickup, and it's radical. The dark-haired teenager was wearing a Rat t-shirt and playing Paranoid on his homemade guitar. The late 1980s, and though it was already nearly 2 decades old, this Sabbath classic provided an accessible riff, frequently played by self-taught rock guitarists. Still in 8th grade, I was the youngest member of my first garage band. I began playing drums because I wanted to play music that I listened to. Though I doubt the guitarist's aim was waste reduction, he felt a deep connection to this particular instrument because he built it. He upgraded and replaced parts over the years, but I suspect few purchased factory-made instruments inspire as deep a connection. Like Theseus's famed ship, some version of this instrument lives today. So I started with that reflection. That was actually the first rock band I played with. They mostly played actually Kiss cover songs, and we never actually got good enough to perform anywhere, but that's beside the point, right? A lot of it's just a wonderful thing to get together and play music together. I played drums in it. The guitar was pretty cool, though. He did make the thing himself and literally cut out the wood from the body, right? Pretty cool. Okay, continuing on with the introduction. The purpose of this essay is to consider how music educators can reduce material and metaphorical waste, such as through instrument making and popular music education. Ecoliteracy theorist David Orr discusses the failure of the 20th century's two main social systems. Communism has all but collapsed because it could not produce enough. Capitalism is failing because it produces too much and shares too little. With capitalism reigning as the dominant system, and with praxial conceptions which view music teaching and learning as a living process that welcomes and guides newcomers into the musical ethical frame network of dynamic dialogical and social relationships and values, the values of capitalist commercial musics, like rock, need to be understood. In this essay, I argue that music classrooms produce waste, and instrument making, used in coordination with popular music pedagogy, can help worsen or alleviate waste through learned dynamic social relationships and values, whether explicitly intended by teachers or not. The guiding question in this essay is, what opportunity does rock music present cultivating eco-literacy through music? Before we can find solutions, though, we need to recognize rock's distinctive ecological challenges. Unlike a research question, this guiding question is not fully answered in this essay, but rather it serves as a guidepost. As critique, in this essay I focus on indirect aspects of popular music pedagogy. And as a more direct possibility, I focus on instrument making. Instrument making activities can include simple instrument making or, as in the example from the opening reflection, can include electronics. I begin this essay with a description of waste and consider the problematic link between rock and waste, which includes both the production of material waste and a more metaphorical waste. I continue to discuss popular music education, then propose instrument making as a form of resistance to waste. In this instrument making section, I discuss 4 published studies to highlight various reasons music educators incorporate instrument making. Finally, I propose some opportunities for reducing, reusing, and recycling, which are part of challenging material and metaphorical waste. I have previously argued that music education should be expanded to include ecological literacy. Ecological literacy is an interdisciplinary movement that helps students cultivate critical consciousness around environmental issues. As Orr writes, the ecologically literate person has the knowledge necessary to comprehend interrelatedness and an attitude of care or stewardship. Recognizing the waste challenge requires comprehending interrelatedness, how we relate to non-human life and places, and entails a persistent care for the environment, even when it is easier to create waste within our capitalist system. This is not a value-free or libertarian education. As Orr points out, medical education has a clear bias toward human health, not disease, and those who teaching for ecological literacy ought to have a clear direction favoring harmony between human and natural systems while preserving objectivity in handling facts, data, and logic. In the monograph, Ecoliterate Music Pedagogy, I suggest there are ecological aspects in music that teachers use in the classroom. For instance, natural soundscapes have long inspired compositions. And many activists use folk music in environmental justice movements. Because of interdisciplinary initiatives, teaching music for ecoliteracy can help music teachers meet those aims. But more than meeting instrumental policy goals, teaching for ecological literacy helps teachers and students' ecological conscientization toward harmful, taken for granted societal values, for recognizing the intrinsic value of human and non-human beings, and of unjust domination and oppression. Using ecofeminist and Freirean scholarship, I contend there are parallels of injustice between the ways we oppress other human people and dominate non-human life. Teaching for ecological literacy as a critical praxis can lead to increased solidarity across human groups, intersectionality, and between human and non-human beings. And I have a figure, a value structure. In the current essay, I narrow my attention to considerations of waste and instrument making in popular music pedagogy. The waste we produce is taken for granted value, or at least a result of such value. Most of us fail to even consider waste. It may even challenge us in ways we dislike, making us consider our failings. Indirect ways music teachers contribute to students' education include equipment and energy use. What makes for good music in an aesthetic sense has always been partly dependent on what makes music good ethically. That implies some recognition of a material effect. Rock music is implicated in the waste crisis, but rock may also help music educators explore opportunities for resisting waste. There we go. That was the introduction. Long introduction, but I'm doing a lot of things in this little paper, right? We'll pick up next time on page 41 on waste. But yeah, there are a lot of things I noted down, right? So solidarity, it's a critical praxis, includes intersectionality, but extends it, right? But we're narrowing this particular paper to just waste, instrument making, and popular music. But this harmony, right? Harmony between human and natural systems. That's our bias that we want to survive on the planet. If you're an eco-literate teacher, we do have a bias, and that's bias. We want to live in harmony with nature. The way that, I don't know, Tolkien writes about the elves living in harmony, or the way that the Garden of Eden was, where we were stewards. Some form of harmony, right? Some form. Or E.O. Wilson's Half Earth, right? Where we preserve by expanding our national parks and preserves and international parks and everything to preserve half the earth for non-human use, right? That we tend half of the earth, but for species and species collapse. It's actually a really cool idea. Half of the waters that fish can live in, right? We have such a fish collapse. It's one of the reasons I stopped eating fish and started taking an algae omega, right? Not based on fish. Sadly, they're more expensive, which makes no sense because algae is what fish eat to get their omegas in the first place. The fact that they eat it all the time is why they have it in their fat, right? But somehow algae, which can be found like everywhere, is really expensive as a supplement. But it's a challenge I have to face because there's so few fish in our oceans now, right? Compared to 50 years ago, right? Like 1% of them still exist. You know, that said, I still support fishing, right? Especially private fishing, because you get out to a creek or a lake or a river or even the ocean and you catch, and most people do catch release now, so you catch and you send it on back, right? And it gets you out in nature and builds that conscientization of nature, right? The love of the bird songs or the water sounds and the wanting to protect places, and gets us towards E.O. Wilson's Half Earth, where half the earth should be protected. Okay, well, have a great day.